You guys want to see what I've been up to for the last 2 weeks on the Gladiator? Well, I've knocked out several small projects. I've made a couple mistakes that I'll share with you, and I could use your help with a couple things. Plus, we'll go over the list. A few things that I've crossed off and a few things that I've added. It keeps getting longer. So I have been having a whole lot of fun just working on some of the small details to get this thing ready for adventure and just to make it look cool. And you'll notice that the top and the doors are off, but we will get to that in a second. What I want to talk about first is a lot of you have been asking if we were going to name the Jeep Gladiator, because calling it the Trail Aid Station, well, that's like a functional name. That's not a fun name. And look, ever since I have been knee-high, I have been naming the cars in my family. And I know there's guys out there, oh, it's just absurd. Why would you name your car? It's fun. It's fun, okay? We're having fun here. And we have decided that we're going to call this Doc. And I think that's very fitting, because when you are a corpsman stationed with the Marines, when you earn their respect, they start calling you Doc. And so it's a term of endearment. And so I think that this Gladiator has already earned my respect. And so I think it's a fitting name to call it Doc. It's going to apply pretty good. Okay. Let's talk about some of the exterior things that I've done. Obviously, we did the decal here, the TrailRecon decal on the side, and that's a great way to customize your Jeep. It's super easy to do. It's all about just taking your time, and you can order these online from all kinds of places and customize it however you want. It's a great way to kind of personalize your Jeep. I love it. Up here, I did some A-pillar lights, and I didn't do a big old massive A-pillar light. I did these small KC Flex Era ones, and I didn't know if I was going to actually like it. I was like, are they just going to be too small? And I actually really like kind of how sleek and subdued they look. They don't take up any windshield space. They're very bright. They got the amber backlight on there, and I paint matched the mount white just to kind of offset things and give it that nice custom look. But I really like these lights. In fact, now that I see them on here, I'm thinking maybe these will be on the bumper as well. I don't know. We'll see how that goes, but that's pretty cool. All right. Across the way, you're going to see that there is an antenna mount, and we will talk specifically about the GMRS radio that I installed here, but I want to talk about the antenna because this was kind of a big mistake that I made. So after I spent a whole lot of time installing the radio and rewired it twice because I didn't like the way I did it the first time, I had finished it up and I'm screwing on the antenna onto the base, and I look over at the list and I realize, oh yeah, I'm installing a snorkel on this Jeep. And which side does the snorkel go on? It goes on the passenger side, which means that when I get the snorkel, I'm going to have to reroute the antenna all the way over onto the driver's side. I could have done that now, but I tried and there was not enough slack in the antenna mount cable to do that. So for now, it sits over there, but it's not going to reside over there. And ultimately, that's probably going to go on the roof rack, but we'll see. Yeah, oops. Okay, next. So I pulled off the trail rated badge over here, and I installed a challenge coin, and my brothers and sisters in the military will be very familiar with the challenge coin. So this is an independent duty corpsman challenge coin. It has a lot of meaning to me. I was looking for something a little bit bigger to fill in the kind of the hole here that Jeep created for the badge. And so I'll see if I can find something bigger later on. But I told you I wanted to do several little Easter eggs along the way, and I think this coin fits perfectly for that, and so I like that. I did clear coat it to kind of protect the brass, so that should be fine out in the elements for a while. Next, you're going to see over here that we've got the top off, and we've got these Mopar Performance half doors on here. And look, this is not how Doc is going to roll when we go out on adventures and we're simulating some of the medical first aid stuff that we're going to do. But it's the holidays right now, and something my family and I have done for years and years is we go out and look at Christmas lights, grab some hot chocolate, and we take the doors and the top off of whatever Jeep might be in the driveway, and we thought this year would be a lot of fun to take Doc out with us. And now I have never taken the top off of a Gladiator, and I've never put half doors on them, and this was a really easy process. But I want to talk about these Mopar Performance doors for a second, because while these are really nice doors, they've got stock hinges, they've got eject on the handle, they're super solid. Here's the challenge. So these are, I have a pair of these, the Mopar Performance side mirrors. And one would think that the Mopar Performance side mirrors should be able to be installed while using the Mopar Performance doors. And they do not. They use the same attach point here on the hinge, and there's just no way to make this install. I was trying to find a way to maybe I can cut this up and fabricate it, bolt it up, and I'm just like, you know what? It's just not gonna work. So I can either have side mirrors or it can have the half doors. And honestly, we like these. It's a little bit of a peace of mind. Gives you this nice open air experience, but you don't have to worry if you got T-boned out on the road or you're worried about, falling out or whatever. It's just a little bit of extra peace of mind. And I think we're gonna go with this. And there are lots of other side mirror options that we can do that will work with this, but kind of a bummer that you can't use these together. Anyway, all right. Let's hop to the back. One little thing on the back that I want to show you that I fixed, and then something else I need your help with. All right, now bear with me for a moment because I had to open the garage door and you might hear some vehicles drive by or kids out playing. That's one of the things with the Gladiator is it fits in my garage, but I actually had to relocate my shelves and some cabinets, some toolboxes to make it fit. But it's important for me to be able to close the garage door and be able to work on here. A lot of people were like, oh, you should do a Power Wagon. That'd be a better vehicle for what you're trying to accomplish. And look, I love the Power Wagon, but the Power Wagon did not ever fit in my garage. I would always work with it like halfway in here and halfway around the back. And it's wintertime and it would be nice to be able to just close the garage, turn the heater on. In the summertime, turn the air conditioner on and work in here with the garage door closed. So anyway, way more than you wanted to know. Okay, let's talk about what's going on back here. So in the video where we were towing recently, some folks noticed that the Anderson connector back here I had just zip tied. And they were like, man, you should really do something with that. And you're absolutely right. I just didn't have the part yet. And so this is actually a mount specifically for the Anderson connector that secures everything. It's a nice clean look. It's going to make it nice and solid. And so I just wanted to address that was something that we did. But here is something that I'm looking for your help with. So I got my license plates in, and now that I have my license plate and a registration, I can do some vanity plates, some custom license plates. And so that's definitely something that I want to do. And on Regina's Jeep, we did the Veterans Honor plates, and I want to do the same thing for this Jeep as well. And so I was spending a little bit of time kind of getting creative and coming up with some ideas. And the tough thing is when you do the Veteran Honor plate, you only get 6 characters to work with. And the other thing is I'm in California and a lot of the cool stuff has already been taken. So there are a couple things out there like 4x4 aid or trail aid or 4x4 dock. I think that one was taken, but there's a bunch out there that are not available. And what I would love is if you guys have some suggestions, put them in the comments below. Remember, only 6 characters, and maybe those suggestions will be available or it will give me a creative idea for something that's similar. So you guys can help out with that a little bit. All right, let's close this garage door and let's go take a look at a couple other things. All right, under the hood, you're gonna see something that has almost become a requirement for all of my Jeeps lately, and that is these hood struts. They're inexpensive, they're super easy to install, and for as often as I'm going to be opening and closing this, doing a lot of work in here, just makes life a lot easier. Instead of having to deal with this guy and having it be in the way, these are worth their weight in gold. Okay, a few things that I've done under here. One, you will notice that it's very bright, and so I installed these KC Cyclones up here, and I just used the push pins, the Christmas tree push pins to hold these in place and wired it down nice and clean. These work great, and it gives you a lot of light in here. In fact, it's almost a little too bright to look at. You gotta make sure you're looking down and not directly at them. I wired them to the S-Pod. One thing to mention here really quick before we move on to that. A lot of folks have been asking me on social media, are you gonna do a full install video on that stuff? And you know what? I've done install videos on these hood struts, the Cyclone lights on the hood, the S-Pod, air compressor, all the stuff we're gonna talk about. I've done those in the past. If you go to the TrailRecon YouTube page, there's a little block right there. You can search, you can type in, S-Pod or air compressor install, and it'll pull up videos of stuff that I've done on these. So While I am doing some slight modifications to some of this stuff, it's very similar to the things that I've done in the past, and that's why I want to kind of do these update videos. So I hope that explains that I'm not doing a full step-by-step install of all this stuff. I just want to keep you guys up to date. When we move on to some of the really cool, unique things, then we'll slow down and take our time and share with you the process, specifically like batteries and wiring, all that kind of stuff. That'll be cool. All right, back to the S-Pod. This is the S-Pod Bantam, and I will show you the head unit up in the interior here in a minute. But this is mounted to a Grim off-road mount, which is a combination mount. So you can mount the S-Pod and the air compressor outlet and the air compressor filters all on this mount. It's really nice. It makes for a super clean design. And the air compressor is mounted down below the brake booster. It's the twin ARB compressor. It's a great place for it. I know that some people have been like, well, I don't know if I would want to mount the air compressor there. Well, let me tell you that 3 years ago, that's the exact spot that we mounted the compressor in Regina's Jeep, and that thing is still going strong. So this whole Grim off-road system works really well. It does require you to remove the fender. And here's the thing with removing fender. It's very easy to do, but there are 10 clips, plastic clips on the fender. And I remember the first time that I did, I broke 1 clip. This time, I broke 9 of the 10 clips. So if you don't have extra clips hanging around, I encourage you to just go buy some. You can actually go online, you can buy a bag of, fender clips and Christmas tree clips and push pins, and you just have those on hand, because if you're going to be doing modifications to your Jeep, it's just nice to have those, because inevitably you will probably break one or lose one or ruin one, and just to be able to go over to the bin and grab one is really nice to have. So, okay. Also, the wiring under here, I have really been trying to slow down and think about the wiring, because there's going to be a lot of wiring on this vehicle. There's already quite a bit so far, and I want to make sure that it's clean, that it's safe, and that it just makes sense. And so that's why I mentioned a little bit about the radio. I actually pulled the radio out and rewired the whole thing just because I was not happy with how I did it the first time. So speaking of radio, let's hop into the inside and let's show you what's going on in there. You gotta love the fact that you could take the top off and the doors off of a truck. That's the great thing about a Gladiator. And I am under strict orders to wrap some Christmas lights around this before we go out and look at Christmas lights with our hot chocolate. So I have a little bit more work to do before we leave. Okay, let's talk about some of the interior things. Now, a lot of this stuff is gonna look familiar to things I've done in the past with phone mounts and iPad mounts, but there's a couple of specific things that I wanna share with you, and then I would appreciate your thoughts on a couple things. So, I have the S-Pod digital screen. It's the first time I've ever used their digital screen. I actually like it. It gives you a lot of functionality with that thing. And it's nice and small, and I kind of like where it's at, so I'm pretty happy with that. I did mount the Zoldio up here. I've never done that before. Just something to think about when you are mounting stuff up here. Make sure that things work after you mount them, because I put this up here and I realized, oh, I couldn't get my sun visor down. And so just make sure that when you're mounting stuff, you allow things to still be functional. I do have my seatbelt cutter right up here, Velcroed to there, so that's easy access. And the other thing was, when I was figuring out where to put the radio mount and all that, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't impeding Regina's area and making sure that we were safe in case of airbag deployment. And so I wanted to make sure that all this was kind of free and clear, and that, you're not just taking up space, because I want her to be comfortable in here. I'll talk about the radio here in a second, but one more thing is because I do tow a lot, I needed to install a brake controller in here. So I went with the Red Arc brake controller. It's a small little box, and all you do is remove this plastic panel, just pops right out underneath the steering wheel, and it literally is plug and play. There's already a port back there that Red Arc has wired up, and it just plugs right in. The only thing you have to figure out is where you want to put the switch, because that's the only thing that shows. And so down here, I drilled a small hole and I installed the little switch. I'm actually really happy with where that's at, right up until we were out on the trail and Regina brushed it with her knee and turned it all the way up to 10. So I've already drilled the hole, it's stuck there. We're just gonna have to be mindful of where it's at. But I think to do it again, maybe there would have been some better options, but I don't know. I kind of like where it's at. Okay, now let's talk about the radio install. So I have installed a 50-watt Midland GMRS radio. 50 watts is the most you can go with a GMRS radio. And previously I've mounted them in the center console, I've attached them here to the side of the console, and I wanted to do something that was a little cleaner, and so this time I decided to install it in the glove box, on the back of the glove box. So you still have access to everything in here, you're just taking up a little bit of space. It required a little bit of creativity with the wiring, and I had to get an extension for the microphone to make that all work, but I'm really happy with the GMRS radio. It really worked out well. My problem is, I mentioned that I wanted to put a ham radio in here, and I hope that I can also mount the ham radio in here as well, and then I can just kind of keep all the comms units here. The problem is that the ham radio, I have two ham radios actually. I have one that has a detachable face, and I have another one that has all the dials and digital display on the unit itself. I don't think that's the one I want to do. I want to do the one with the digital, the detached face. You don't have a lot of options on where to mount that, especially since I have my iPad up here. I think about the only place I'm going to be able to mount that is right up here, and that means running wires all the way down, and then I still got to figure out where I want to do the microphone. I'm probably going to have to figure out some kind of two microphone system here. Some folks have mentioned, you know, you can do those bars over the top where you can mount the radios up here, and those are nice, they'll work for some folks, but what I don't like is having this guy dangling down in your face while you're driving on the trail, and especially having two of them. So that's why I did not opt to do an over-the-head mount for the radios. I think what I will do is I will just put the little head unit here, but I will keep everything else nice and clean. I could have mounted this radio under the steering wheel. However, I really wanted to keep everything together, so if I do have a comms issue, I kind of know right where to look. And so that's just going to keep things nice and clean and simple, especially with wiring. I can keep them all kind of grouped together. I think that's going to work well for me. So that's what's going on in the front of the Jeep. Let's talk about the rear. All right, one of the main objectives with this entire build is to bring the awareness to having first aid training and supplies with you when you are out on the trail. And so, having a small, simple kit like this is all you need. Taking a basic first aid class and knowing how to use the gear in here is extremely important. So, I will always have this guy inside. But, when I'm on long adventures, I'm gonna bring this guy. And this bag is kind of has a lot of sentimental value to me. So I actually deployed to Fallujah, Iraq, and this is the trauma bag that I took with me back in 2006. And this has seen some real world action and lots of missions. And I've kept this bag, and I decided to pull it off the shelf and kind of go through it. And what I realized is there's a lot of stuff in there that I probably shouldn't have anymore because I'm no longer able to respond to trauma. So there were some things in here I will just say that I needed to dispose of. And I just needed to go through and update all the supplies in here. Some of the stuff was just old and dry rotted. There were some medications that were expired. So this is now, one, it's legal, and two, it's ready to go for response. So when I am on long adventures, this guy is coming with me. Now, one thing to note is these rear seats are going. I've already talked to my good buddy Brian over at Goose Gear, and we're gonna come up with something really, really cool for back here. But right now, until that happens, I have just put some of the basics in here. Down here, I've got my tool bag, I've got a tire repair kit, I've got recovery gear, I've got a battery charger, and I have a bottle jack. Over on the back seat, I have a personal locator beacon, flashlight, and trauma shears. Just some of the essentials for when I'm off-road. But ultimately, this will all be gone, and it's amazing how much space you get when you get rid of all these seats. And I will probably put the battery bank down here somewhere, and again, we will talk more about that when that time comes. And then I will probably keep all this gear that's under here on that side, because when I am on the driver's side, being able to access just tools and recovery gear easily, not having to walk all the way around the vehicle, just makes a lot of sense. So that's kind of where my head is at with what will be underneath the storage area. And then we'll probably have a fridge up here, which, you know, maybe I'm gonna decorate it. I think it's gonna be like a blood bank, but we're not gonna carry blood, obviously. So, all right, let's go take a look at the whiteboard. All right, here is the whiteboard with my massive list of things that I still need to get or do to the Gladiator. And thankfully I've crossed off a few things, but every time I cross something off, it seems like I'm adding 2 more. So some of the big things that we're waiting on right now, I think, are wheels, tires, lift kit, bumper, and winch. Those are gonna increase the off-road capability of that Gladiator tremendously. And so those are the things that I'm really working on right now. And hopefully we can line that up and have those installed here in the coming month. That's the plan. All the other stuff we can take our time with a little bit. I can pick away at here little bits at odds and ends, but I've just been, as I'm thinking of things, I'm just writing them down. And if you see something that you think we should do to the Gladiator that maybe I haven't thought of, that's not on this list, guys, I would love to hear it because you guys have been tremendously helpful up to this point. I will say one of the things that I'm really excited about, and I've already started doing some sketches of, is this guy right here, a coffee maker. I'm gonna do something really cool and clever with how we make coffee with Doc. I think that'll be a whole lot of fun. No percolated coffee this time. It'll be something a little different. But I think I've got just about everything on here sorted. But I know probably by the time I turn the camera off, I will probably be writing something else down. So there you have it, guys. There's an update on the Jeep Gladiator. I hope you guys are as excited as I am about it. I cannot wait to get it out on another adventure here soon. Until next time, make sure you check us out over at TrailRecon.com. We'll see you in the next video.